Hello Reborners, my name is Karen and this is Making Dolls with Karen. We're back with Canon. He had his bake for his 2 layers of 05 and we're ready to move on to the next color. His head's sinking in a little, it won't matter. When I get ready to stuff him, he'll do fine. His next color is going to be this darker color we call warm blush. And we're going to apply it just like we did the other layer, except we're only probably going to put 1 layer of this one. It's very dark and it doesn't need to be more than 1 layer. One thing you probably noticed is I did not model this doll. I have modeling sponges. Here's one of them. Tiny little holes in it. This one has a little bit different of a configuration. The holes are a little bit larger. Then I made this one where you have a one giant one. And they all have their own different configurations, and I'm just not fond of the way they put modeling on my doll, so I don't really use them that much. I prefer cleaner skin on my doll. Anyway, we're gonna put a layer of this on next. Let me get a brush back here. Mix it a little. Make sure you have your top on tight if you're going to shake it up. I don't like plunging my brush all the way down into the paint to mix it up. It catches too much of that dark paint on the bottom and then it doesn't rinse out of the bristles very well. So I tend to just shake it a little bit, and that'll give you a better mix, I think. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with our brush that we did before. We're going to brush his eyes, and we're going to brush all around his nose. There's little crevices all around his face that may or may not get painted if you use only just the sponge. And so that's why I do this with the brush first. I'm still going to go around all these spots with the sponge to make sure they don't look rubbed with a brush. Instead, they look just magically put on, I guess. The sponge doesn't leave marks like the brush does. So we want to make sure we get the cleanest, prettiest finish on our doll that we can get. And after we get this coat on him, we are going to look at all aspects of him, and we're going to see what needs to be touched up. We're also going to try our very best to decide, and I don't have any trouble usually deciding this, whether or not he needs a second coat of this color. Most of the time I just hardly ever put a second coat of this one. If they're just super pale, I might put a second coat. This one's very darkening, and you don't want to have too much of this color on your doll. 1 coat is usually enough. There's a high potential for puddling and unevenness in this one, so I'm using my little magic brush to get down in these creases. We don't want anything to look dirty or smudgy on our doll. And we're going to give him a little more pouncing with this one. It's a little bit cleaner. And then we're going to put him down and let him start drying while we start on his arms and legs. Sit up, please, Canon. He doesn't want to sit up most of the time. Okay, here we go. We're going to get this wet again. I'm going to brush his feet. That's the part that has all the little crevices between the toes and everything that make it difficult to get the sponge down in. Anywhere you think the sponge won't go, some people brush in the deep depth of the crease of the back of the knee. That's okay too, because we are going to go over this also with a sponge. I don't usually redo the feet because it's just such a small area. You don't have much potential there for brush marks. It's so crinkly and bent up, and I don't know. And I immediately get my other sponge and I start sponging off the excess. We don't want any excess on our doll. Pretty good. Make sure you do his feet. Now this one has a potential for staining the creases, the tiny little creases on the feet and everything. So I always go over it also with my magic brush. And I always call this my magic brush because it does remarkable things, I think. There we go. Let's put that down, let it start drying, and get the other one. It doesn't really take that long to make a doll. If you just put your mind to it that you want to finish it, and you just keep going to the next step and the next step and the next step. Let's see who this is. I lowered some of my doll prices and now people are asking questions. I'll answer her in a minute, as soon as I get done with what I'm doing here. I had a huge amount of COAs. There was a time in the past where nobody cared anything about the COAs. Plus, I donated a bunch of dolls to the nursing home, and the elderly ladies absolutely don't even know what a COA is. They just want a baby, you know. And so I had just a pile of them and no dolls to go with them. So I started selling them online to people who either the person who made their doll didn't have the COA, or their doll was a second and it didn't come with a COA, or something like that. And people was grabbing them like crazy for the longest time, and then it just slowed down to nothing. I am going to paint behind this knee. I can't even reach it with the sponge. Anyway, I just marked them half price. I don't have very many left, and so I just marked them down to half price, and now a lady wants like 5 or 6 of them, and she wants to know if I'll cram them all in the same little padded envelope. I don't think that many will fit, but I'm going to try and save her postage, you know. The postage won't be the same because it's going to weigh more. People don't understand that, you know, I put it the cheapest way to go already, which is media mail. It's very, very cheap. And if you stick more than a certain amount in there, it's going to be a lot more postage. They don't understand that. But anyway, I'm going to try. That's all I can do. I told her I'd try. But in the meantime, I'm going to finish this particular segment up until his next bake before I do it. Because I started this first. Hands and feet are very touchy on these dolls with these darker colors. As the color gets progressively darker, you have to be more diligent about how you put it on and that you pounce it around enough and all that stuff. Because you will have a muddy looking doll, excuse me, that looked like it crawled around outside in the mud, and you don't want that. Yep. I know it's an awkward silence, but it's all the same pouncing on each limb as it is on the first one. The color starts coming through, your baby starts looking a little more alive. I don't have a regular size head to compare it to, but we can compare it to Ashley. She's so pale and plain, she has no color on her at all. And here's Canon, he is colored. The difference is a lot different. Anyway, I call that my reality check. Anyway, okay, now that he has got this color on him, I'm pretty sure we won't be doing any more of it. The only way I would consider it is if he was super pale, and he's not, and he still has more to go. This isn't his last color, so we will just leave him this color he is right now for this particular coat. But one thing I want to do is give him a scratch. Now, giving a baby scratch is a delicate procedure, but it's not hard. It's not hard at all. First thing you want to do is decide, where do I want the scratch to be? It can be pretty much anywhere on his face, and you can actually put scratches other places too. Babies are not usually scratching their arms or their legs, though. It's mostly their face. So I've put them on the cheek, the chin, the forehead, the nose. It can be pretty much anywhere. It just is your preference. I'm just going to pick a spot, and I'm going to hit it a little bit with this heat gun first, because I need to make sure the area is dry. The reason I wait till this late to give him his baby scratch, even though that could be considered an enhancement, is you don't want too many layers of paint going on top of the baby scratch. So I'm just gonna pick a spot right here on his face, and I'm just gonna give him a scratch. The first thing you want to do is remember that a baby scratch is a wound, and whenever you've scratched yourself, you've noticed that the skin behind the scratch on the sides and everything is a darker color than your regular skin is, because it's trauma to your skin, really, and it just gets red. And so we're going to make a little red spot first, just a little red area where we're going to put the scratch, but this is the skin around the scratch, okay? It's not the scratch. So we're going to just make it a little bit wider than we want our scratch to be, so that on both sides you'll see a little darker red. So here we go. We're just going to just dab on this red, just like you would if you were blushing them or something. I'm going to slightly dab it with this cotton swab, because I don't want it too dark. And then we're going to hit it with the glue gun to dry it. That's got it. We don't want to make our scratch too bold, but we do want to be able to, let me just show you one I've made in the past in case you haven't watched this video. This is, I just gave her hair, it's Jenny, and she has a scratch on the side of her face. and you can actually feel it. If you rub on it with your finger, you can feel the scratch. And you should be able to, but scratches are bumpy and rough, and because they're wounds, they're scabs. And okay, so we're going to put it on in layers, and layers require that you dry them, because if you don't, it's not going to look good. Now you can use a pencil, and I have done it before myself. You don't have to use a pencil, but you want to use a color, if you're going to use a pencil, that is similar to the color of the scratch, so that it won't show that you put the dots on there. You know how a scratch doesn't just look like a straight line going across, it's little dots. And so we'll put a little dotted line on his face. You won't be able to probably see it, but this is a good way to follow your scratch line. If you've never done a scratch before, you're going to want to have some little guideline that's going to show you. You can see it. It's right here by his nose. It's going to show you which way to go with your scratch, how to go, how to stay on line. I'm going to hit that a little because it will cure the pencil just a little. Now I mixed up some thick medium. It comes in a little jar like thinning medium. It's called thick medium. And it makes things very, very thick, but not only that, it gives it a texture where it's raised above the skin. And I mixed it up in a little bottle cap, and I put it in this plastic bag so it wouldn't dry out. I know, it sounds crazy, but when I get a mixture I like, I don't want to have to mix it every single time. And there's plenty still left in here to give this baby a scratch too. And I'm going to take my tiny, tiny little brush that has like 5 hairs in it, really, and I'm going to just barely let the bristles dip into it. I'm going to get them a little bit wet, and then I'm going to just wipe a little bit of it off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I just did. I'm going to give him a little bit of a dotted line on his face. This dotted line will be almost continuous. I'm not going to just swipe. I'm putting actual dots on his face, but they are very close together. Now this is just basically almost just step 1 still. Now we're going to hit that with the glue gun. I'm going to be stuck calling this a glue gun. The heat gun. We want that to dry before we put anything else on top of it. That's probably dry. If it's not, it's close enough. A little bit sticky, but it's not wet. Okay, we're progressively making layers that are going to turn into a scratch. Now, one of the next things I do is I just put a smooth layer on just to darken it a little bit. We don't want it too bumpy, so we're going to put a little tiny smooth layer on. I'm just going to wipe most of what's on here off. Get a little bit of this, and I'm gonna, well, if I can get any of it. This is smooth and flat. I'm not gonna swipe it either though. I'm still gonna dot it on there. We want a dotted line. We do not, and you don't have to be careful to try to get it on the same dots as you did before. We just want dots. It's gonna progressively get a little darker, and it's going to progressively get a little bumpier. Oh, that's not the top of that. That's the only time we'll use that on his scratch. So let's hit that. the whole time you're holding this on their face is getting hot. We don't want to get them too hot. Now, one last time, we're going to put some of the bumpy stuff on. And this time, we're going to use more of it. We're going to put less dots, and they're going to be further apart and bigger. Basically, that's all we're going to do different. This is how it looks now. Pretty awesome, I think. But we just need this last layer to give it its texture. This is really not much I'm adding. It's just a very small amount. Rinse that out real good. My paint thinner's blue because I washed a bunch of blue brushes in it, but it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to get that thick stuff out of it. Okay, one last time with this. That looks absolutely good to me, and when he comes out, it will feel like a scratch too. So now the only thing I have left to do is, I want to make sure it's not too hot, is recolor his lips a little. They're very pale looking now. They still are pinkish looking, but they're just palish looking. And that's because the paint that went over it kind of dulled it. So we're going to refresh it just a little with our red here. This is very versatile red. I used the Genesis red, which is a true great color of red. It's the lip nail blush red, and it's a wine color, and it's very pretty, and it makes nice lips. The Gemini color that I've been using on the faces and stuff is very pink, and you notice that. This one is not pink. See, you could see it on the lips. It's not pink at all. Pink really does not belong on our dolls. This is a lightish wine color. It will give them rich looking color in their lips. Babies have very dark lips, most of them. Very few babies don't. But it would take a trillion layers to actually get the actual color of a baby's lips. I don't like it when the color in these little lines on his lips are darker than the rest of his lips. So I'm going to be spending a moment trying to even that out. I'll show it to you first. It looks darker. It looks like he's been outlined in those little creases in his lips. I don't like that. It makes them look like they have chapped lips to me. And I don't want my baby having chapped lips. Get off it. So I'm going to just smooth it out. Then you have to wipe it off your brush because it won't take, because it only has 5 or 6 hairs in it, it won't take very much paint at a time, and you got to wipe it off on something, or it just won't do any good to do this. And they don't have to be super slickly smooth, but I just don't like them when they're bumpy looking like they are right now. That is much better, I think. Okay, so there's that. And now we're going to look at his nails again. They seem to be a little spotty. They're colored pretty good, but the color is darker in some spots than others. And that's because I guess I put it on too thick. And when they lay sideways or whatever way they're laying, it runs a little bit, I guess. I don't know. But it seems like there's times when I can get it on so perfect, and other times I have to put it on 3 or 4 times before I can even get a decent coat. And this is one of those times I'm having trouble with a decent coat even. And after the nails, he'll go back for another bake, and then we'll come back and work on him some more. We just take every step and do the best that we can at it, and we'll have a baby that looks at least decent. I like to think my dolls are pretty, but you know, people might be going, shoo, shoo, she thinks they're pretty. You know how people are. And all we can do is our best as an artist, and we can make a pretty baby. If I can do it, I guarantee you can do it. So don't get discouraged, because it's basically going up and down with a sponge on a piece of vinyl. You don't have to be artistic, but you do have to have a steady hand if you don't want the nails to look real messy. And I do not have steady hands. I have shaky hands because I'm old. And as we get older, our hands get shakier. And I just can't, sometimes I can do it so good, and other times my hands are so shaky, I just go, I'm not attempting those nails right now. Beware of how your doll lays on the table when you do nails and stuff, because you don't want it touching the table and wiping off. There you go. They look pretty good when you first paint them. Anyway, we're going to call that even. And he's going back in the oven now. And when he comes out, hopefully these nails are still going to look this good. We can cross our fingers, I guess. But anyway, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all in a little bit. Happy reborning.